why it's coming out now is we wanted to wait, to get through all of the legal proceedings, the criminal trial, and it spans, it's, four parts, and it spans over 30 years of, pop culture, his life. So it took some time, to say the least, to put all of this together.
It's an important story, and you could just tell it with all the public material. Mm-hmm. You go further, you've gotten your hands on some extra new material people are going to see for the first time, including this video. Any journalist would want to know how you got it, but it is Sean Diddy Combs in the heat of this, right before the arrest for the trial we just discussed, in private moments, talking to his lawyer, cameras running.
He also underestimated that a lot, some of, with every celebrity, you do have different claims and some are completely unfounded. But I think that some of these lawsuits, there's receipts, mm-hmm. and there's footage and there's voice recordings. And I think that for a man, it's also very interesting, for the culture of hip hop, so many artists record themselves, and they probably, when they were, recording themselves in 2005, never saw the year 2025 and how accessible that media would be to actually make a case for things. And I think that's a big part of the gum.
50 Cent's new Netflix documentary dropped on Tuesday and immediately seized the spotlight, pulling viewers in with its rapid-fire storytelling and eye-opening details. The film moves with purpose, unraveling deep testimonies from individuals who once stood close to Diddy and knew the atmosphere around him better than anyone on the outside ever could. With unprecedented behind-the-curtain footage and accounts that have rarely surfaced publicly, the documentary pieces together a vivid portrait of his ascent, his controversies, and the shadowed ecosystem surrounding his success.
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I wouldn't say things that I knew, you know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so. I have proved things that I can say that will back up my claim, but this is not for the world to know about. You know what I mean? It's between me and him, and only he knows. So every time he say it ain't happening, that's the only thing that makes this become an issue to everybody. Because you seen what I said in the Vibe article. I basically bowed out and was going to go ahead about my life. The next issue, that wasn't even the next issue, because them cowards waited about 4 issues before they got their story together. 4 issues later, half of New Yorkers commenting on me getting shot. And before, they was all like, we didn't see nothing. In the first issue, we did, Vibe viewers. Nobody seen shit. The 4th issue, when they came back with a reply, everybody knew what I did. They knew what I said. I was acting. Who gets shot 5 times in acts? Oh, I didn't get shot 5 times in their vision. I only got shot once because they found the bullet. The police found it, but now they the cops. Now they doing detective work. They found the bullet. Oh, you found the bullet, huh? So what is this other shit in me then? What was the doctors talking about? What? Can you explain these other holes in me? How I get gunpowder all over me? That insulted my intelligence. So yes, I did say Thug Life was there. Yes, I bowed out, all of that. But
in the second episode of Sean Combs, The Reckoning, a new wave of former bad boy records, insiders and artists step forward to share how they personally remember the chaotic years that followed the deaths of Biggie Smalls and Tupac. Their comments aren't framed as hard proof, but as deeply rooted experiences and doubts that lingered long after the headlines faded. Figures such as rapper Mark Curry, Roxanne Johnson, Craig Mack's former wife, and label co-founder Kirk Burroughs paint a vivid picture of a music empire under strain. They describe a period filled with mounting pressure, uneven treatment, and a growing East-West divide that changed the tone of 90s hip-hop forever.
From Greg Kading, the detective that worked on Tupac and Biggie's case in this documentary. He is the investigator that did that proffer agreement with Keefe D way back in 2008, where Keefe D alleged that Diddy tried to offer him $1 million to take out Tupac and Suge Knight. And Tupac's trial with Keefe D is coming up very soon in early 2026. And we know that Diddy's name has been dropped at least 200 times during these proceedings already.
Created the atmosphere for both of those guys to lose their life.
I honestly, when I look back on it, if he trusted Sean more, it would have been better. But he didn't trust him as much as the way Sean says they were best friends after he was dead. Nah, I didn't see that during the time we were working.
The documentary continues to uncover lesser-known moments and overlooked fragments of the story, transforming it into one of the most startling and comprehensive examinations of Diddy's public controversies to date. As of now, he remains in a federal facility in New Jersey, serving a 50-month sentence tied to unlawful transportation charges under the Mann Act, a conviction handed down earlier this year. While a jury did not find him guilty of the more severe organized crime-related accusations, the public scrutiny surrounding him has only intensified.
Homes have now sent a cease and desist letter to Netflix.
That's right. They are demanding it not release a docuseries featuring
This documentary doesn't simply revisit allegations from the past. It introduces new claims and revelations that are already sparking renewed media coverage and intense public discussion. The filmmakers obtained rare, behind-the-scenes footage of Diddy inside a New York hotel room just 6 days before his arrest, captured by a videographer he had hired himself. In these clips, he's seen intense conversations with his attorney, reacting in real time to the non-stop news cycle and the way it was reshaping his image across the country. The footage offers an unusually candid look at his state of mind during a critical moment, revealing a mixture of frustration, strategic planning, and concern over the escalating situation.
I'm waiting the whole time for Aubrey O'Day to reveal some major story that happened between her and Diddy. 3 episodes in, she's basically just talking about Diddy in a very general way. It isn't until the 4th episode that Aubrey reveals a witness walked in on Aubrey O'Day completely inebriated with Diddy doing things to her, as well as a second man who they refer to as a light-skinned, tall man. Details are very explicit and not anything I could share on here. This witness revealed that it was 100% Aubrey O'Day. It was really uncertain in watching Aubrey's reaction and kind of resharing this story whether or not she fully recollected the situation. He says it couldn't have been her choice to become inebriated because that was never her issue. She never really drank a whole ton. The earlier parts of this series, Aubrey does reveal these series of emails that she got from Diddy. They were all in very sexual nature, in a very sexual tone. He's basically asking her to come over and do certain things with him. It's these very domineering emails where he's basically setting the tone that he's the boss. She says that she felt very uncomfortable about those emails and sick.
It's highly unusual to hear someone speak this candidly in the days leading up to an indictment, especially during conversations that are normally shielded behind absolute confidentiality. Legal analysts point out that having a videographer present during such moments may have unintentionally complicated the standard attorney-client protections that typically apply. Diddy's team later told NBC News that the footage was recorded without proper authorization, insisting they had no knowledge of how the material made its way into Netflix's hands. They also stated that the videographer was under strict contractual agreements intended to keep all private discussions sealed and off limits to the public.
Bad boy, we had gotten over CCNY. It looked like the coast was clear. We were renegotiating with Arista. We were about to get a step up in the money. I had 25% of the company. I didn't know why he needed to get that back from me and then give it back to me again. I didn't understand that. That's like a trick. Like, okay, here, I gave it to you. Now give it back. And don't worry, I'm going to give it right back to you. I didn't want to give it up. So he came into my office one day unexpected, him and Kenny Marsalis. They had it planned out. Kenny had the briefcase with all the stock certificates in it. And Diddy had the bat. Not like, I'm going to beat the shit out of you with the bat. But he had the bat like, man, we got to do this. This has to happen. I didn't feel I was going to get beat down in that office, in all honesty. I got people that can jump out of the shadows in a minute. I wasn't threatened by him. What I was messed up over was the fact that I started this company with you from day zero. And now the one solid thing that you told me I had, you want to take that back and do a return to me on that at this critical time that we're renegotiating and getting a step up on the contract. When he told me it was about all of that renegotiating and that I should trust, I did, begrudgingly, angry, upset. It wasn't right. I did it. He got the stock back. I went on, tried to get over that, kept doing my job, doing what I had to do, delivering everything. And once again, I was caught up in the job. I forgot all about it. And next thing you know, we had the snafu. I was fired. And he just said, oh, okay, bye. And since he had never given me his stock back, he never said that he would pay me anything or give me anything. He just avoided me all these years. Not only did he avoid me all these years, running high and low, I went on and started working with Mary, who the three of us.
Series also reintroduces figures from different chapters of Diddy's career, former collaborators, performers, and long-standing associates who offer a ground-level view of his rise and cultural influence. Their recollections help fill in the gaps, giving audiences a clearer sense of what it was like to move within his orbit during some of the most pivotal moments in hip-hop history. One of those voices is Obrio Day from Making the Band, who reflects on her own time working under his leadership. Her perspective adds emotional weight to the episode, unpacking both the opportunities and the obstacles that came with being part of his creative world.
Money, Pac wanted to leave, and it could be some other shit that was going on, but they still created an atmosphere for that. You understand that East Coast, West Coast bullshit. When Suge was trying to use the New York guys to, okay, man, come on, let's make some sense of this shit. And have a meeting and sit down with the New York guys and ask for a representative for Puff to come on. Puff was mad. You see now why Puff was mad. Everybody know now why Puff was mad. That he didn't want nobody to come to the meeting because Suge was playing Pay Daddy. Suge was in there playing Play Daddy with Justin. It's crazy. I said, well, how you gonna be mad at Misa and the East Coast, West Coast? And now we see why he was mad. We don't know if Suge sent Puff those pictures years ago. We don't know that. But that's why Puff didn't send a representative when Zipman was asking him, man, let me represent, just let me know. Nah, man, F that. They trying to get a black distribution company, a publishing company, all that for hip hop artists and music. Puff and Jay-Z ain't won't have shit to do with it. And look who get rewarded behind that. So, to answer your question, I think the atmosphere that they designed and made up led to what we know was an East Coast, West Coast war. And both of them had some responsibility.
Al B. Sure, who previously dated Kim Porter, shares what he says he personally observed during his time around the family, offering a perspective shaped by years of proximity. Former bodyguard Roger Bonds also steps forward, recounting occasions where he claims he saw Diddy act aggressively toward Cassie. Bonds explains that his early admiration for Diddy shifted over time as he became aware of behavior that, in his view, painted a very different picture than the one he initially believed.
You say Suge looks over, he sees you. He looks right at you. Okay. When he looks over at you, and then Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out
in the back seat or something.
Yeah, what do you see happening inside of their car?
I seen a bullet going Suge's head. I thought he was dead. You thought he was dead.
So Orlando start across Dre.
He leaned over on the window. We rolled down the window. Pop. They would drove on my side, I would pop them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Charles eventually tried to challenge the situation in court, but his case was dismissed after judges ruled that the statute of limitations had already expired. Even so, he continues to face other legal disputes tied to his time in the industry, leaving him still wrestling with the fallout decades later. From there, the episode pivots to one of hip-hop's most defining conflicts, the notorious Bad Boy versus Death Row standoff. This was the East Coast-West Coast clash that reshaped the culture, the headlines, and the sound of an entire generation. Death Row boasted titans like Dr. Dre and Tupac, while Bad Boy was home to Biggie, Faith Evans, 112, and Maze. But insiders in the documentary offer a striking perspective. They insist the rivalry's biggest flames weren't being fanned by the artists themselves. According to multiple interviewees, it was the executives, particularly Sean Combs, who continued to push competitive tensions forward until they exploded into a national spectacle.
Go into the details on that one. Keep the streets on me. I ain't gonna go into detail on that.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and read from the book.
Well, so let them buy the book then.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to read this passage. The shit was on. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat. It was the first and only time in my life that I could relate to the police command. Keep your hands where I could see them. Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of my guys from the backseat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. The first skin shook in the head, and I thought that motherfucker was dead. I had heard some stories, supposedly that Suge used Tupac as a shield when the bullets started flying, but that's some bullshit. Suge was already wounded, and he was the one that got touched. As the rounds continued flying, I ducked down so I wouldn't get hit.
Basically, yeah.
The white Cadillac arm came out the back seat and started letting off.
What went through your head when you saw that?
Keepy D's 2008 proper agreement, he alleged that Diddy's friend Zip Martin is the one that gave him the weapon that was used to take out Tupac. Keepy D told the investigator Greg Kading that Zip Martin had a special compartment to keep this weapon in his car that he drove to Las Vegas. And in this documentary, we have Greg Kading confirming that Zip Martin did drive the same type of vehicle that Keepy D alleged to Las Vegas this night. And then during this documentary, we heard from the former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burroughs, who alleged during this time, Diddy had him hiring a whole bunch of people and getting cars to drive to Las Vegas. And he is now very curious into why Diddy wanted to do this. And he said, in his opinion, he now believes that Diddy was behind taking
documentary depicts the label rivalry as something that escalated far beyond music, transforming into a volatile street-level conflict. According to the series, various gang affiliations began aligning themselves with different sides, with the Crips reportedly supporting Bad Boy and Biggie, while the Bloods backed Suge Knight and Death Row. What started as industry competition is described as evolving into a dangerous, multi-layered power struggle with real-world consequences. At the center of these rising tensions, the episode highlights Diddy's alleged connection to Eric Von Zip, someone he had publicly acknowledged as a mentor-like figure who was said to be linked to Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, a man long associated with New York street networks. Through recordings featured in the series and commentary from former LAPD detective Greg Kading, viewers hear Davis discuss his claimed involvement, along with his nephew Orlando Anderson, in the 1996 Las Vegas shooting that killed Tupac.
There was the rumor that after Pac got Puffy gave Zip $1 million that was supposed to be handed over, and Zip ended up keeping it. And I remember when I interviewed TK Kirkland, who was actually roommates with Zip at one point. They were that close. He actually said, yeah.
The Fed said that too.
He said that actually happened. Well, the story that has circulated was that after Tupac got, Puffy allegedly gave the money,
I heard,
to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
But he never gave the money to him.
But thank God he never gave him the money, right? Think about it. If he gave the money, Puffy will be in prison now, money for hire. So thank God. If it's just a true story, I'm not saying yes or no, but if he would have gave them the money, it'd have been for hire and Puffy would be locked up.
Davis also alleges that Diddy had promised to pay him and other associates to target Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, who was riding in the same vehicle during the infamous 1996 attack. According to Davis, the payments never came through, partly because Knight survived the shooting and partly because the funds supposedly disappeared along with Eric Von Zip, who has since passed away. These claims remain unproven and are heavily disputed, yet they add another layer of tension and complexity to an already convoluted narrative. By including them, the documentary amplifies the sense of unresolved questions and lingering mysteries surrounding one of hip-hop's most notorious and tragic moments. Next Voice Burroughs asserts that Diddy encouraged Christopher Wallace, known as Biggie, to make a trip to Los Angeles to promote his album. Despite Biggie's own hesitation about traveling, that journey tragically ended with the rapper's 1997 murder,